Hello and welcome to the Second String, the best place on the campus of UNL for your college football news. I'm your host, Nate Muehlbach, and joining me is Alex, gets the people going, Fernando.
You know what, Nate? It's provocative.
Yeah, I told you before this wasn't going to work, and I'm just not feeling it.
Oh, come on. I thought it worked well.
Okay, all right, fine. I'm just trying to get you. All right. Here on this show, the Second String, we like to talk about college football and all that it entails.
Like to talk about college football? We love to talk about college football. We live to talk about college football, Nate.
Alex breathes college football.
This is very true. I'm wearing football cleats right now. I'm just so hyped.
Yeah, he's also got a football. We have a flag football game after this, but
that's not the reason why. It's part of the reason why I'm holding a football, but I just love football so much, Nate. We got so many good games to talk about.
It was an excellent week with a lot of excellent games that did not go the way I thought they were going to go, Alex.
I was pretty happy with my predictions. I went 9-3 this week. So
you fudged the numbers.
I do not fudge the numbers. I was spot on it. I told you Penn State and Notre Dame, better watch out.
No, I agree. I agreed with Penn State. I thought they were going to kill them.
Yeah, but your boy Darnold.
Oh, my gosh. He did not play terrible.
He did not, but his team did.
His team definitely did. Speaking of the Darnold and his team, let's go right into probably the biggest game of last week and probably the best and most important for the playoff picture. Number 13, Notre Dame came in, or they were at home actually. USC came in to South Bend and absolutely got walloped by Notre Dame. 49-14.
Oh my gosh. I think the Fighting Irish took that Jewel Shillelagh trophy, took USC out back and just started clubbing them with it. My goodness, 49-14, and like this one just didn't even seem close. I was watching this. I know you had to work, but I was sending you updates when I could. I was watching this, and Notre Dame was just absolutely demolishing them, especially on the ground. 377 yards rushing put up on USC.
Yeah, when I was checking the game, checking some highlights in between, the volleyball sets, and I just was stunned by some of the highlights I was seeing. I was like, I cannot believe Notre Dame is beating USC that bad. I know USC is a team with a lot of holes, as shown this last Saturday, but I didn't think they had that many holes.
Yeah, and they are pretty banged up, a lot of missing pieces from both their offense and defense, but you're right. I thought coming into South Bend, being a big rivalry game, USC trying to fight back into that playoff picture, kind of the front runner in the Pac-12 as most people thought, especially in the South at least. And they just came in here and really had no answer for what Notre Dame wanted to do. They came away with only 1 sack, 5 tackles for loss on the game, but they just couldn't stop Notre Dame from manhandling the up front. And just that offensive line moved the ball very, very well and protected Brandon Wimbush pretty well. Again, only 1 sack. Not the best numbers, 9 of 19 and 120 with 2 TDs, though.
Yeah,
when I was watching, he looked okay.
I mean, and you don't have to throw for 300 yards if you can rush for over 100 and pick up a few touchdowns there. I mean,
or rush for over 300, almost 400.
I mean, as a team, yes, but I'm more talking about Wimbush specifically.
Very true.
I mean, 9 for 19 for 120 and 2 touchdowns is an okay stat line, but when you add in 2 more touchdowns and 120 yards on the ground, that's even more impressive, in my opinion, than 120 yards through the air.
For sure.
I mean, that's over 200. That's 240 yards of offense, or not 240, about 230 yards of offense, and 4 touchdowns accounted for by himself. That's a very impressive, no matter who does that.
Oh, definitely.
When you have a quarterback who can stretch the defense in 2 dimensions, we as Nebraska fans know this. Taylor Martinez, Tommy Armstrong. When you have a quarterback who can rush, who's a rushing threat and a passing threat, it gets hard for a defense, especially a banged up one,
for sure,
to be able to stretch the field to protect the pass while also assigning these linebackers to cover the quarterback who's rushing.
Yeah, and the biggest area in the field and the game that I think it makes the biggest difference in would be those third and long downs. Because while everybody's running their deep patterns, quarterback's going through his reads, he's not seeing anything, pocket's starting to collapse. When you have a rushing quarterback like Brandon Wimbush, he can get out of the pocket, he can move the pocket, but sometimes he'll just break out and scramble and get those 8-9 yards and pick up a first down, keep the drive going.
Yeah, it's just a very valuable skill. And I think, also we as Nebraska fans are recognizing this skill this season where we realize that like Armstrong or Martinez really bailed out Nebraska drives sometimes with their legs.
Oh, for sure.
And now that we have that option kind of taken away, it really reveals to us that I think having a dual threat quarterback is one of the most important skills or you can have on a college football team.
It can be one of the most deadliest playmaking ability, just one of the deadliest players on the field, regardless of who you're facing. USC struggled against dual threat quarterbacks already this season, and they have to face a couple more coming up. They struggled with Sam Ehlinger from Texas when he came in. Not the most dual threat, but
I mean, he can run.
He can definitely run. He's a 6'3", 230, I think, so he's a big guy to tackle. Utah hung with them. They have a dual threat quarterback. They have Arizona in a couple weeks. Their quarterback's been running for like 500 yards a game lately. So
yeah, I mean it's for the USC. It just they're done. They're out of it.
Out of the playoff for sure. They could still probably win the South.
I'm sure the South has been. It's not a train wreck, but it's been a real pile up in the middle. It looks like.
Yeah, but I mean Arizona State's on the rise. I don't think you need to count them out completely. It's gonna make a lot of, let's see, I mean, there's the three teams at the top are USC, Arizona State, and Arizona, 4-1, and then 3-1 for the two Arizona teams.
Yeah.
And USC has them both for their next two games, including a trip to Sun Devil Stadium.
Ooh, that'll be tough. Yeah. I mean, I can expect that these next 2 weeks will be, they'll be the crucial stretch for the Trojans. If they can squeeze out of here with a 2-0 record, I mean, I think they're in pretty good spots to at least get a secure good bowl game. But enough about the losing team. Let's talk about Notre Dame. They're 6-1. They had that tough barn burner loss to number 3 Georgia.
And just a 1-point loss, last second field goal too. Like
yeah, they're for real, right? I mean, they're for real.
They really could be. I think the back half of their schedule is going to prove that, though.
Okay.
Their front half of the schedule, they've had Georgia. Maybe you can count Michigan State because it was on the road, and Michigan State's looking okay. But
I count Michigan State.
They have a good defense, not a lot of offense, and that was still at the beginning of the year when Michigan State's still trying to get their things together.
I mean, they do have a tough schedule next week.
For the rest of the season.
Yeah, next week.
The front half was not so much for Notre Dame.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, next week, NC State, they have Miami. They're at Miami, at Stanford.
Yep.
We'll talk a little bit about the NC State game later. Mm-hmm. But I think they're for real.
You do?
I do.
I got to wait at least a week to see this. Their ground game is for real. I would not want to be any opposing defense trying to stop their run. If you're throwing 377 up on people regularly, I mean, they're averaging over 300 per game on the ground. And as a team, like that's hard to stop.
Yeah, it's tough. Josh Adams is amazing. Brandon Wimbush, as we've already said, is a fantastic player. And for Notre Dame, yeah, like you said, I think the back half of the schedule will prove if they're legit or not. I think we'll have to see. I think they are. You say we'll have to wait. We will see this Saturday for sure.
When we get into our playoff discussion a little later in the show, you can definitely bring them up.
Okay, all right.
Let's switch over. I want to talk about one team that I think is definitely going to the playoffs. Penn State absolutely trouncing Michigan. Yes, trouncing, Nate.
No, they trounced them. I told you last week that this was going to be the mirror inverse of last year, where Michigan came into Penn State and just beat up a very beat-up Nittany Lions team, and I don't think Michigan's too beat up beyond the quarterback spot, but that's the most important place to not be beat up.
Very true.
And Penn State walloped them, 42-13.
Regardless of John O'Corn or Wilton Spate being a quarterback, I don't think that made a difference.
Really?
No, I think Penn State, they're the real deal. If you're going to talk about a real deal team, you look at Penn State.
They are the real deal, but Michigan, you cannot comprehend how hard it is to win with your backup quarterback.
Oh, no, I can. I've seen Riker Fife march out there for Nebraska plenty of times, and we lost at Purdue 2 years ago because he marched out there and tried to throw the ball 55 times in that game. So I've seen plenty of times where it's tough to win with a backup quarterback. But when you look at Penn State, the one thing that drove me nuts all week leading up to this game, everybody talked about how amazing Penn State's offense was and all about Saquon Barkley, how great he is. Everybody talked about how amazing Michigan's defense was, how they don't let anybody through, they stop everything, best defense in the nation, total defense ranked number 1. They talked about how terrible Michigan's offense was, one of the worst in the nation. John O'Korn, not a great quarterback. The one thing that nobody mentioned all of last week, Penn State's defense. The Nittany Lions have one of the best defenses in the nation. Just statistically, they are number 7 in total defense, top 20 in pass or rushing defense, I believe. I think they're like 17. They're top 10 in scoring defense and in rush defense.
That's some good stats.
Yeah, nobody looked into that at all. And the biggest thing, too, is their defensive ends. They get phenomenal pressure on the quarterback all throughout the game, no matter who they play. They came away with 7 sacks and 8 tackles for loss in this one. I mean, I would not want to go against anybody on their defense, but, like, again, their defensive ends just come after you very, very quickly. I think probably 2 of the best, most ferocious defensive ends in the nation I've seen so far this season, at least.
Yeah, they have a lot of good players. You know, their defensive ends, Jason Kabenda, linebacker, is a phenomenal player. Sort of harkening back to the old Penn State is linebacker U of the 90s and 2000s.
Yep.
But I think the real stat here is, I know we're going to disagree, and we're going to get into this. We're going to get into this a little more later in the show, and I think Michigan's just bad. They're a bad team.
Still, offensively, yes. I mean, they're one of the worst teams offensively. They might even be worse than Nebraska offensively.
They might be.
But defensively, they will be able to stay in games. Not games with teams like Penn State or Ohio State, but for a majority of their schedule, they'll be able to stay in games.
Okay, fair.
You mentioned the Wisconsin game before the show. They have to go to Wisconsin.
I mean, they're not going to win that game.
I don't think they'll probably win it, but I think it'll be closer than you might anticipate.
Okay.
Just because Wisconsin doesn't have a big, formidable offense. I mean, Nebraska held them down for 3.5 quarters.
Sure.
Then they just kind of wore you down at the end. But Michigan's defense, I think, will keep them close in majority of their games. But when you face a team like Penn State that has every weapon imaginable and arguably the best running back quarterback duo in the nation, that's going to be tough to stop, regardless of who you play.
You know, I'm thinking about what you said, and I think Trace McSorley, Saquon Barkley is the best running back.
Yeah, name me a better one right now.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. I don't think I can.
I honestly couldn't. I'll give you, like, a semi-okay, comparably, a semi-okay one be Miami's with Rozier and their new running back. Can't remember his name at the moment, but the guy filling in for Walton, he's had, like, crazy amount of yards.
I like Mason Rudolph, Justice Hill.
Oh my gosh, stop. You and your pokes.
Okay, listen. All right. Let's talk about Penn State. I think everything that we said in the last segment about Brandon Wimbush, we can say double about Trace McSorley. I don't think there's enough praise that can be said by him. A lot of people were saying about Trace McSorley earlier in the season, he's inaccurate. He doesn't throw the ball super well. He doesn't have a great arm. Force him to throw, and you can beat Penn State.
Yep.
17 for 26 for 282, and a touchdown and interception. That's better than Brandon Wimbush's stats by a lot.
Definitely was.
And he also added 3 touchdowns on the ground. Didn't quite run as much as Wimbush did, but 76 yards, 3 touchdowns.
You don't need to run as much as Wimbush when you have Saquon Barkley.
No, and I mean that's what I was saying.
Penn State has a much better receiving core to throw to as well. He's got Gasecki, his big tight end, like 6'5". Dude can out-jump the entire stadium. He's got Hamilton, big number 5 wide receiver on the outside.
Barkley is the best safety blanket in the nation.
Oh, that too. Barkley's got to work on his catching. He dropped a really easy wheel route and about dropped his touchdown later in the game. Both of them would have been touchdowns, but he about dropped his touchdown later in the game and then made the Heisman play, bobbling it and catching it again.
Heisman.
Oh, my gosh. But, no, you're right. Going back to Tracy McSorley, much better numbers than people would anticipate from him. So far this season, he's sitting at just under 67%. He's at 66.8 completion. He's got almost 1,900 yards and 14 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. So he's not not always the most accurate, but much better than anybody around the. I mean,
and that's what
one of the top around the nation, at least.
That's what people are saying. He's inaccurate. He can't throw the ball super well. And I think he's proven that, yes, he can. He can do all of those things.
Much better than people give him credit for.
And I am unsure of their prospects for next week. We'll get into that also a little later.
We got a big discussion on that.
But I think they're one of the best teams in the nation. I'll give you that. On an objective level.
Definitely agree.
Let's go to our last game that we want to go to fully in depth. And maybe not this one, not that much, but
I want to go in depth on this one. How much of a heart attack did this give you?
maybe a little bit. I was watching it with you. I was in between shifts and I came over to your place. We watched this one.
I know. I was giving you a lot of flack for this game. I knew this would be close.
I didn't think it was going to be close.
I thought Oklahoma State would pull away in the end. But Oklahoma State comes away with the road victory. First team to beat Texas 5 times in a row at Longhorn Stadium.
I can't say that doesn't feel good.
But yeah, the Cowboys, they had to do it in overtime, 13-10 in overtime. Texas played really well. I thought this was going to be a high-scoring, close game.
I did too.
A lot of defense, but more so the lack of offense.
Oklahoma State's offensive weapons, they just didn't really show up. Aitman, James Washington, McCleskey, especially James Washington, just did not get the separation, and maybe you can attribute that to Texas defense, which I do think is a genuinely good defense.
But their secondary has been the weakest part of their defense.
I know, and Oklahoma State has the number 1 scoring offense in the nation, and I also think it has to do with coaching. I don't think Mike Gundy coached a good game. And this has been one of the biggest criticisms of Mike Gundy. And I know people in Stillwater, they obviously don't want him fired in the slightest. But one of the criticisms is that sometimes he just gets tight when he coaches. And he seems like he calls a conservative game plan. He seems like he calls, not a great offensive game plan every once in a while. And it just seems like his teams sometimes lock up under him. And I don't think that makes him a bad coach, but it seems to happen quite a bit.
Yeah, and that can definitely hurt you in the longer part of the season, especially later in the season if you have a couple of those slip-ups.
I mean, he's famous for doing this against the Sooners.
Oh, yeah. In Bedlam?
In Bedlam. He's famous of locking up in Bedlam. But
and, I mean, again, you mentioned Texas's defense. They played very well, especially their front seven. Their front seven is one of the most underrated in the nation, in my opinion. But to not take advantage of their secondary, guess what their secondary ranks in passing defense?
Oh, gosh. Is it in the hundreds?
It is in the hundreds. 113.
Oh, my Lord.
They give up almost 270 a game through the air.
That's ridiculous.
And they held Mason Rudolph to 282. So, I mean, not really holding him down. He got plenty of yards, but no touchdowns.
No touchdowns.
And to be fair, we were both watching this when you came over. There was a lot of drops by the wide receivers of Oklahoma State.
There's so many.
And
James Washington, Aitman, McCleskey, they're just good receivers that couldn't make the catch, and
some of them were right in the hands though.
Yes.
There were some flat out drops.
I mean, that'll do that to you. And the Texas defense is good. Like we said again, Malik Jefferson is he's a beast mode linebacker. We talked about him.
14 tackles, 11 of them solo.
We talked about him when they played USC early in the year.
Yeah.
I'm talking about him now. You'll see him on Sundays. Mark my words.
Oh, for sure. He's only a junior too. If he comes back his senior season, that's going to be scary. He honestly could be probably a top 3 round pick.
So let's talk about Sam Ehlinger.
Sam Ehlinger. I was pretty high on him. I'm still pretty high on him.
I'm very high on him.
Yeah, I honestly, junior, maybe even next year, but junior year for sure, one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. I think so.
I wouldn't be surprised if he develops that way.
His dual threat ability was hindered a little bit because he got sacked so much in this game, but he's really managing the offense well. Everybody's going to freak out and blame him for the loss after he kind of lobbed that pass in the end zone in overtime and got picked.
Just a freshman mistake.
Yeah, simple freshman mistake. He thought his receiver was going back into the end zone. He's trying to make a play. He's got to recognize that, just throw it out of bounds, go for the field goal.
It's a really tough freshman mistake to make because we watched him. The camera focused on him and he was crying, and I was like, I know that feeling, man. I know that feeling.
That's an incredibly tough feeling to swallow, especially when you know that you came so close to leading your team.
I mean, they had that. I had no doubt in my mind that they were going to get that touchdown. If he throws that out of the back of the end zone, I have no doubt in my mind that they score a touchdown and win that game.
Yeah, the next play, I mean, it could have just set it up, but again, freshman mistake, you grow and move on from this.
Yes.
He's been very impressive this season. I mean, so far this season, this is a freshman coming in mid-season or first couple games, and then he takes over the starting spot. But he's sitting just under 56 completion percentage. He's got almost 1,500, a little over 1,400 yards, 6 TDs and 4 picks. But his rushing ability is what sets him apart. He's got a couple TDs on the ground. He's been over 100 in a couple games. So, again, very big quarterback. We talked a little bit about the dual threat ability and how that causes headaches for teams. That definitely caused headaches for Oklahoma State. They could not contain him for quite a while.
Yeah.
It's just their sacks that kind of hurt his numbers a little bit.
He's gonna be a gamer in a few years. He is going to be an amazing quarterback. And I know it's a meme. People say it all the time, but I'm pretty sure in a few years when he's up there, Texas is probably going to be back.
See, I was just gonna ask you, does he bring him back?
Not this year, maybe not even next year, but in 2 years, I would look for it.
All right. Well, we'll see what players Tom Herman brings in for weapons on him.
I'm sure. All right. Before we go to our next segment, is there any other game you want to talk about this week?
There's a few. I want to make a quick little bragging point on the West Virginia Baylor game.
You predicted West Virginia to beat Baylor. I'm so proud of you.
Okay, I predicted them to beat Baylor 37-35. They beat Baylor 38-36. You gotta give me credit on at least that one.
You get a quarter. You got a quarter of a point.
Oh my gosh, that was pretty good.
No.
What'd you think about LSU just rolling over Ole Miss?
Ole Miss is terrible, man. They're a bad team. Shea Patterson's done for the year with an injury, and he's a quarterback I really like. So
LSU had almost 400 yards rushing too. Geis 276.
It's good to see Geis, but I mean that's when you got to get a player back from the who's down on a downward slope. You just got to get a bad team and tell them to just run the ball to get going, and that's what Darius Geis did, and it seems like he's back to where we all thought he would be at the beginning of the season.
Want to know a fun stat? I was watching the end of this game. They pulled it up on the TV. The last 4 school record rushing performances for LSU have all come in the past 2 seasons with Geis or Leonard Fournette.
I mean, that's just absurd.
So the top 4 LSU rushing is all just Geis and Fournette.
Yep. All right, let me...
You got any you want to talk about?
UCF continuing to roll 7-0.
Oh my gosh, you're fighting Frost.
They're fighting Scott Frost. Good for Scott Frost. He deserves all the success, and no matter where he's at. And I think UCF is a great team.
Very good win on the road at Navy.
Yeah, that's a hard place to win.
Yeah, definitely. And he has a pretty manageable schedule. The biggest thing is going to be USF at the end of the season. Big rivalry there.
That'll be a good game.
Oh, 2 dynamic offenses, 2 high-powered offenses. I'm looking forward for that one on the 24th. Thanksgiving weekend, good rivalry. I love rivalry weekend.
We're gonna have a fun time on that show. But yeah, that's the one game I wanted to bring up that I thought.
Can I just slip this in just because?
Sure.
Northwestern beat Iowa. Can we not be happy about that?
I'm happy about that. Out of our wildest dreams, because I thought Pat Fitzgerald was throwing that game.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we were watching the end of that one too. I love Pat Fitzgerald. I think he's arguably one of the best coaches in the nation.
I don't know about nation, but he's a pretty good coach for Northwestern.
I would put him top 20 in the nation.
Okay.
He's sneaky good. He doesn't have a lot to work with. His offenses tend to kind of fall by the way, but his defenses are always tough. And you're right. At the end of the game, he just kind of settled. He's like, we'll take this to overtime. He had a minute and a half, 2 timeouts to drive down the field and at least try for the field goal. And, I mean, you got a third-year quarterback. You have the leading rusher in school history, and you have 2 timeouts in a minute 30. You can't tell me that you can't even try to drive down the field there.
Yeah, and then Iowa State gave it away. They threw an easy completion to Noah Fant, who's not a guy who drops the football that much. And Noah Fant it hit him in the hands and he dropped it. And
I was watching that game before you got over to the house, and they were dropping the ball everywhere. Nate Stanley missed quite a few deep passes, and that's where he's struggled this season, is Those 15-plus yard passes.
And the short ones, too. He throws bullets.
Yeah, and that's probably part of the reason with the drops is guys just aren't handling them. But then he overshoots guys on the deep balls.
Yeah, I think he just throws too hard. All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we will discuss the new AP poll and the playoffs since there was no Nebraska game next week. All right, we'll be back in a little bit.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. The only thing I didn't learn in school today is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Hey, I'm an exchange student, and you can be one too. Don't just sit around and wish you could travel the world. Go do it. You'll see incredible things, make lifelong friends, and change your life in more ways than you can imagine. And hey, scholarships are available, and you may not even have to pay much more than you do now. The helpful team in the Study Abroad office are awaiting your call. So what are you waiting for? Call them now at 402-472-5358. That's 402-472-5358.
Having a place to go after school will make you a better student. Having an outlet to express yourself will make you a better artist. Having something to do together will make you a better family. At the Y, we're helping build better friends, listeners, writers, swimmers, scientists, and musicians, one chance at a time. Give the gift of opportunity. Support the Y at ymca.net. The Y, for a better us.
Whether college grad...
All right, we are back with the second string. We just talked about the games last week, but let's talk about something that came out this week. That is the AP Top 25 poll. Alex, I'm going to let you take it away on this one.
Brand new rankings for the week. Last week without college football playoff rankings. Those come out next week on Halloween night.
I'm so excited.
Halloween, yeah, it's spooky.
A spooky playoff.
It's
wow,
very spooky playoff.
We're never going to say that again.
No.
Let's make a pact.
Poorly timed pun, but okay. Good looking rankings so far. Notre Dame moved up 4 spots in the top 10 again, sitting at number 9. Top 4, top 5 here. Let's go. Alabama, Penn State, Georgia, TCU, and Wisconsin.
Wisconsin got that ice momentum up the polls.
Yeah, they're just kind of sitting around watching other teams fall, doing their thing.
They're like Nebraska of last year, except they're actually good.
Oh my gosh! Don't start
remember Nebraska last year? We just kind of skated up the polls.
We definitely did, but we easily could have beat Wisconsin. Again, I think last year and this year, Wisconsin was one of our most winnable games of the season.
Oh my God! Last year, yes. This year,
year, well, yes.
No.
There were so many opportunities to climb into that game and just take it over. We were down early, but held them to 10 points in the half.
Stop.
Oh my God! I'm telling you, we'll get back to the rankings here.
Yeah, let's not talk about Nebraska's
We've talked about Nebraska and Wisconsin enough. But the big surprise, get ready, hold your horses. Iowa State in the top 25 for the first time in I don't even know when. Probably maybe 2012.
No. What did they go in 2012?
Maybe not. I don't know.
I want to.
I'm gonna look this up.
Okay. Yeah, Iowa State. They definitely deserve to be in the top 25. I was also shocked when I saw this. I was like, I cannot believe Iowa State is in the top 25. But then I looked at the teams that could be around there: Texas A&M, Michigan, Mississippi State, San Diego State. Are any of those teams better than Iowa State? On a neutral field, would you pick Ohio State or would you pick Michigan?
Wait, how did we get to Ohio State and Michigan?
Because Michigan's the number 26.
Oh, I thought you said Iowa or Ohio State. Yeah, no, I would pick Iowa State, honestly. Their offense, oh my God, I don't know. Their offense is looking really good with the new quarterback, Matt Kempin.
Third string.
Third string quarterback. Great wide receivers on the outside, but their defense, playing really good ball. Texas Tech, not the best team out there.
No.
But they're not an easy team to slow down.
No.
Cliff Kingsbury, his offense is known for putting up 50, 60 points a game.
Iowa State,
I found that stat, by the way.
Okay.
Iowa State, back in the top 25 after 12 unranked seasons. So 2005 was the last time we saw them in the top 25.
Oh, boy.
That probably after they beat us or something like that. Who knows?
I don't know about 25. That was 2005. That was a rough year for the Big 12 North in general.
Very true. Let's just not discuss that. Let's focus on 2017. Again, some good rankings. UCF moving up a couple, right behind South Florida now.
Yeah.
North Carolina State moving up a little bit. Big showdown at Notre Dame this weekend, so on the road, top 15 matchup there.
Yeah, North Carolina State moves up to number 14 from number 16. Trying to think of all the teams. Yeah, Notre Dame
Michigan
jumps
State
up a
moved
bunch.
up a couple. Michigan State struggled with Indiana, as I thought they would. I knew that was going to be a tight game.
I think 16. I think 16 is a fair ranking for them.
I don't know. That offense scares me. The great defense, but their offense. Lewarke's good. I don't know if he's good enough to carry the team like he has been.
No, I agree. You know,
it's a little bit of a Lamar Jackson feel there. He's the only guy in the offense that can do anything.
I wouldn't blame you for thinking that way. You know, Stanford jumps up a few spots. SC drops 11, or not 11, just 10 to 21 from 11. It's a very, very, I would call very normal AP poll. I'm not real shocked by any of these developments.
I was shocked with Iowa State, but otherwise
I was too. But do you think Texas A&M is better than Iowa State on a neutral field?
No, I think Iowa State, honestly.
Do you think Michigan's
playing
better
good
than
football.
You think Michigan's better than Iowa State on a neutral field?
You know, I said this like 3 minutes ago, but I might retract that and say Michigan just because of their defense again.
Okay.
Michigan, as I mentioned earlier, they're a team that should be able to hang with and compete with just about everybody because of their defense.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Iowa State, good for them that they're ranked. We kind of grew up into the Big Ten at all. I mean, that was like my first year of high school was the inaugural Big Ten. Actually, no, my first year of high school was our last year in the Big 12.
Yep.
But,
and then, sophomore year we got into the Big Ten.
Yeah, but basically all of my formative years where I really started to blossom into a big football fan was when we were in the Big Ten. So
Big 12.
No, Big Ten.
Oh, you're saying for high school?
Yeah, for high school.
I've been following football since I was born.
I don't.
Falling behind here.
No, I don't blame you. I'm just saying personally for me, I was just never the biggest football fan, and when I was growing up. So when I finally started to really get in and follow the sport, we are in the Big Ten already. So I've never really hated Iowa State. I don't really hate any of the old Big 12 rivalries, which I know my dad is probably face palming right now. I'm like, Nate, what are you doing on air? But I mean, I can't help feeling like this. So I don't mind that they're in the top 25. I think it's good for them.
It definitely is, and especially with their coach, Matt Campbell.
Yeah, Matt Campbell, I think he deserves it.
Bringing up a very lackluster program, usually middle, bottom, very bottom of the Big 12. Doesn't do a lot. Maybe gets an upset every couple years, but Matt Campbell's got them at least competing, and they have a chance to cause some heads to turn in this conference. They've only lost one conference game so far. All
right. Yeah, I mean, good for them. I think they deserve the success. Matt Campbell deserves the success. I mean, good for the Iowa State fans. I think they deserve a little bit of success after a decade of some hard losses.
All right, Nate. So since there's no Husker game to talk about, I came up with a fun little game.
Okay.
Since the college football playoff is a week away, why don't we jump the gun?
The playoff's a week away.
Sorry, the playoff rankings are a week away. I wish the playoff was a week away. That'd be crazy. But no, still a lot of season left. The playoff rankings coming out 1 week from tonight. Why don't we jump the gun a little bit? Let's see your playoff rankings.
Okay. I want to get this straight before we do this because we didn't discuss it too much. Is this the playoff rank right now, or is this the playoff rank as we think
right
at the
now.
Beginning of season?
Let's do it like the committee. They do it week by week. Right now, who is your top 6 teams? Your 2 outside looking in, and your top 4.
Okay, my first 2 teams looking out is my 2 teams looking out are Ohio State and Clemson.
Okay.
I'm just without Kelly Bryant. I don't find them to be a threat at all to the national title picture. And with the loss to Syracuse, I just think it disqualifies them. I don't think they quite have the resume. I think their resume looks a lot worse now than it did a few weeks ago. And I think at this point in the season, it's enough to leave them out. Ohio State, we're going to get into this in a little bit. I actually think they're going to win this weekend.
No.
So I'm
going to nix that right now. It's not happening.
So if you ask me this next week, I'll tell you that I want Ohio State in. I think they're going to be in the playoffs at the end of the season. But as of this moment, Penn State, who is in my playoff ranking, will be better. Who's your two outsiders?
My two outsiders, I would think, are going to be Miami and Wisconsin.
Okay.
So the reason behind it, Miami, 6-0. They've played some tough games. Decent. I mean, on the road at Duke, on the road at Florida State. And Florida State, I mean, their record doesn't really show how good that team really is. They fight tough. They've lost a lot of close games. They are with a freshman quarterback. Won a tough one with Georgia Tech. Won a tough one with Syracuse. Then the back half of their schedule, if they can navigate the back half of their schedule, for sure, they definitely are going to get in.
Sure.
And if they win the ACC. But they have Virginia Tech coming up. They have Notre Dame coming up. Virginia, who hasn't been too bad this season, not a lot of competition for them. But
yeah, I told you Miami was my dark horse playoff candidate, but I definitely agree with you that I don't think their schedule so far is super impressive.
Yeah,
and
that's why I have them at my 6th spot, kind of looking in. They got to prove a little bit more, but they beat some quality opponents.
Yeah.
They've had some good games, and they look pretty. I mean, they haven't looked amazing doing it, but they look solid.
I mean, I think your reasonings for leaving out Wisconsin should be self-evident.
So, yeah, with Wisconsin, again, not a whole lot of competition yet this season, and their whole schedule, honestly, fairly weak.
College football podcast that I follow, every time they talk about Wisconsin, they play the Charmin Ultra Soft theme song.
Oh, my
Soft
gosh.
as Charmin out for their schedule. And
That's brutal.
And,
but, I mean, I've heard a lot of people compare it to this, and it's a little bit different because I think Wisconsin is significantly better. But a lot of people compare this to the 2015 Hawkeyes.
Oh.
Very simple schedule. I mean, conference games, but they don't have their worst conference game is probably Michigan.
Yeah.
And that's at home. They get Iowa at home. Their toughest, they had Northwestern at home. They had us on the road. They have Indiana on the road, which could be kind of tricky. Minnesota to end the year on the road. But those are all very beatable teams in the Big Ten. They don't have to play Michigan State. They don't have to play Ohio State or Penn State. So this year, Wisconsin, again, that schedule kind of looking like the 2015 Iowa schedule. You can win all those games. You can win them kind of close. They only beat Purdue by 8 at home last week, or a couple weeks ago. Handled Maryland pretty well, but just not a very big schedule, a very big name schedule for them. So I think when the playoff committee looks at this, they're going to have them on the outside looking in because they haven't done a lot to prove it.
For sure. But is Wisconsin's schedule really? Oh, no, it is. I was going to ask you a question, but I already don't believe what I was going to point out to you, which is what I think is going to be our third and fourth teams. Now let's just say the whole thing. My top four, and I know this is really cheap because this is basically the AP top four.
That's kind of how mine is.
I would put Alabama number 1, Penn State number 2, TCU number 3, and then Georgia number 4.
Switching TCU and Georgia?
Yes.
Why is that?
I just think TCU's a better team than Georgia right now. I think they're very similar teams, but I just genuinely like TCU's defense a lot more than I like Georgia's defense, and I like their offense a little bit more than I like Georgia's
defense, which has shut down Tennessee and Vanderbilt and Mississippi State.
Some SEC powerhouses right there.
No, you're right. I mean,
they shut down the number 1 ranked offense in the nation. I think that's good enough for me to maybe that's some Oklahoma State bias kicking in, but I think they're genuinely an amazing team, and I think they deserve to be in that 3 spot.
Yeah, TCU has played very well this season again, and I think they have a little bit better resume. Georgia, I think my top 4 would be the same. The big thing is that when you have Georgia at number 4 and Bama at number 1, they're going to play each other in the playoff. They're likely going to play each other in the SEC championship,
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think I'm going to put my top 4 for playoff, same as you for right now. I think TCU is a better team. They played a little bit better opponents. They won at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
They handled West Virginia at home in a shootout. West Virginia is a good team.
Yes.
And then Kansas State on the road, not an easy place to play. They held the Wildcats just to 6, blew out Kansas. They have Iowa State on the road in Ames this week. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, you do never know. But yeah.
And they have a tough few weeks ahead. Iowa State, Texas, and Oklahoma. Iowa State and Oklahoma on the road. So there's always potential for those upsets to happen. But
I just think TCU's a win against West Virginia in Morgantown is the second best win. And when you have the, in my opinion, best and third best win out of each combined team, I think that says a lot about where you should be ranked. But we'll find out. Georgia's not going to be in the playoffs at the end of the season.
You don't think so?
No. There's not going to
be 2 SEC teams?
No, I'm putting the squash on that right now. There's not and never will be, as long as we have a 4-team playoff, 2 teams from the same conference in the playoffs, which is why we need an 8-team playoff.
Oh, so you're an 8-team guy.
I am an 8-team guy. Please do not tell me you are a 4-team truther. They infuriate me on social media. Absolutely anger me.
No, I'm with you. I think 8 teams is probably, in the future, probably the better way to go about the playoff system. You have all 5 conference champions.
Yes.
You have a group of 5 conference champions.
Speak to me.
And then you have 2 at large.
Oh, I'm there. I'm so there. I'm in. I've already strapped my helmet.
Are you in?
I'm so in for the 8-team playoff.
Oh. Well, regardless, we'll have to wait next week to see what playoff rankings come out. When we come back to the second string on KRNU2, we're going to discuss the upcoming games this week, talk about Nebraska at Purdue, and talk about some big highlight games. Nate and I have a big discussion on Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah, it's going to be nasty. Not really, but we'll see.
The risk of an American man developing cancer in his lifetime is a little less than 1 in 2. The risk of an American woman developing cancer in her lifetime is a little more than 1 in 3. But the death rates of cancer have been declining in men and women since the early 1990s.
I relay for the support of my sister.
I relay for the support of my grandfather.
I relay for the support of my uncle.
Keep helping those in need by participating in Relay for Life. Join us for Relay for Life at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln each year to fight back against cancer. Sign up for your community event or donate at relayforlife.org.
Water is all around us. No wonder it's hard to imagine we're facing a water crisis. But we are. So that's why the American Planning Association brings you simple ways to save water at home and in your community. Learn more at planning.org. That's planning.org. A public service message from this station and the American Planning Association.
What if you lived in a country?
All right, we are back on the second string on KRNU2. I'm Nate Milwaukee with Alex Fernando. Let's talk some Nebraska, finally.
Oh, it's been a while. Nebraska on the road at Purdue. Absolutely infuriating because we are underdogs.
We're underdogs?
Yeah, we are dogs, Nate. 5.5-point dogs to the Boilermakers, who just lost to Rutgers. Come on. I know Nebraska hasn't looked good this season. They've looked really, really bad, okay. Especially the last couple
You're
games.
Answering your own question.
But against Purdue?
You're answering your own question.
Oh.
Are we really better? Are we really better than Purdue?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, I think so
I
too.
definitely think we are. Do we have the capability to completely blow it and lose to Purdue?
Yes.
I definitely agree. I definitely
no.
think we could do that as well.
Exactly. This will be a tough game. To me, it'll be the selling point for the rest of the season for the Huskers. I think the outcome of this game will, in my opinion, decide our season. It will decide. I don't want to say our coaching staff. That's not what I want to say, but it'll decide.
I don't know. If you lose to Purdue 2 out of 3 years as a head coach in Nebraska, that'd be kind of tough.
I have no bones in that game. So
yeah, but I don't know. You're right. This I think again it just gives a good glimpse of what the back half of the season is going to look like for Nebraska.
Yeah, if we can win this game, I think it shows us that we can finish bowl eligible. You know, FPI predicts that we have a 16% chance to go 6-6 or better. We have to win 3 out of our last 5 games.
Yep. You can already chalk the Penn State one as a
Yeah,
loss.
no, I mean, yeah.
I'm the biggest optimist in the world, and I'm sorry, that's not going to happen.
Good. Thanks for finally getting on my same level here. But let's talk about Purdue. They're 3-4, just like we are in the Big Ten West. They have what I would like to call a very confused way to play quarterback. They have 2 people. They have Elijah Sindelar and David Blau, and they switch them a lot.
Constantly switching them in and out. And the numbers for both of them are not good. I mean, Blau's a little bit more accurate, significantly more accurate, 66.7% compared to 52.7% to Sindelar. And then 8 touchdowns, 4 picks for Blau, 6 touchdowns, 5 picks for Sindelar. So off the top of your head, you'd think Blau. And
I think Blau.
I don't think so. I think Sindelar is the way to go. I've watched Purdue a little bit this season. I've watched them switch their quarterbacks in and out. Blau just does not look I mean, neither one of them, again, neither one of them are very impressive. I think Tanner Lee should be able to be the star quarterback in this game.
Yeah, that's
does he
something.
Does he not throw a pick six? If he doesn't throw a pick 6, but I think, again, when I've watched both of them in there, I think Sindelar manages the game better. I think he knows how to, again, his accuracy doesn't necessarily show that, but he has more yards. He has about 200 more yards than Blau, and he seems to just find holes in the defense, especially when they're running zone. Blau seems to get scared and starts throwing it everywhere. In double coverage quite often. And I don't know. I'm a Sindelar guy if I was a Purdue fan.
I haven't watched as much Purdue as you, but in the little I saw of the Purdue-Rutgers game from highlights, I thought Blau looked like the more impressive quarterback. I think he's the guy who puts more fear in the defensive backs from the opposing team. I think he throws it more accurately. I think he throws it better, and I think the stats reflect that.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's tough to say with Purdue. Again, they switch them so quickly, so you never really get that long of a look. Because I remember I was watching Purdue in, let's see, what game was it? One of their earlier games in the season. They were taking on, it was their Minnesota game. Blau, first couple series, nothing going. I think he had 2 picks in like the first 3 or 4 series.
Sure.
And so they switch in Sindelar, and Sindelar starts moving the ball, moving the offense. I don't know what it really was because, again, the numbers reflect Blau better as a passer, but the passing game seemed a little bit easier with Sindelar in there, and then it opened up the run game.
Yep.
When Sindelar's in there, they have a much better rushing attack with their running backs.
Fair enough. But, I don't really think it matters who they go with, because I think our secondary is going to be much, much improved because Mike Riley had some good news. Antonio Reed, Aaron Williams, Josh Kalu, all healthy enough. They're all good to go.
Bless up. And we will be having a more strengthened Chris Jones as well.
Yes, that's good. And I've always said he shouldn't have come back when he did. I feel like now would have been the ideal time to come back.
Probably.
Unfortunately, we do have the final nail in the Trey Bryant coffin. Did undergo knee surgery.
Yep.
I think that was expected. I think we were saying this in week 3 that he was probably done for the season. I've always been a big proponent that we might want to worry about him being done for a career. I don't think the injuries that he has are not the type that get better with surgery or with rest. But for now, he is done with the season. We wish him a speedy recovery. All the best.
For sure. Hopefully he can get
Trey
back.
Bryant.
And he's such a grinder, too. He's a hard-working back. I've watched him in practice, and I've watched him, especially in the games, too. You saw, 30-plus carries in the first couple games and just absolutely demolished defenses, runs very hard between the tackles, outside tackles. It doesn't matter. He wants those yards. But I think this makes our running back picture a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
Because Riley and staff have been kind of playing with us. Is Trey coming back? Is Trey really going to make it back? No, he's not.
Yeah, for Trey, I think it'll it's good to finally get some confirmation. The big worry for Nebraska for the injury report is that Luke Gifford and Dedrick Young are both listed as questionable. Luke Gifford apparently hurt his hip against Ohio State, and he's been nagging out of practice. Dedrick Young, he's been playing with the cast, which is unfortunate, and he had to reoperate, which is one of those things where to me, it's one of those things where it's like, just sit out a few weeks, get your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a guy on my high school football team that did the same thing and broke his hand, and then broke it more up into his wrist because he still played through it. And I was like,
if you're injured, take a couple weeks. It's not a bad deal. And if you want, I can go ask Luke tomorrow in class how his hips feeling.
Okay, all right, go do that. I actually kind of want to hear it. I will see.
Sounds good, but no, I think getting a majority of our secondary back will be huge.
Yes, that's the biggest news.
And we talked a lot last week about throwing DiCaprio Boodle back there at safety.
And having Reed and Williams back.
Oh, for sure.
And Kalu.
Aaron especially. I love Aaron Williams back there. I mean, he's kind of one of those players you never even have to worry. You don't really worry about him too much on defense. He's going to make most of his tackles. Everybody on our defense misses tackles. They need to work on that. But he's going to make most of his tackles.
Yes.
He's going to stick with his man. And he's one guy I love having back there because I'm like, all right, he at least has his part locked down.
Yeah. Well, it'll be good for them. And for Purdue, I don't think they have the offensive weapons. I think we have the offensive weapons to score on their defense.
Oh, for sure.
It'll be a good game. What's your score prediction?
Oh man, I'm thinking Nebraska finally gets things together. We had the bye week. We get healthy. J.D. Spielman for Heisman comes back, and I don't know. I think Nebraska puts on a good, solid performance, and let's go 34-17. I'll double them up.
I'm gonna go 24-12 Nebraska.
Okay.
24-12, 24-14 Nebraska. Not
first
quite
things first, got to establish the running game. Get Zigbo some carries.
Yes, I agree with you there. Let's move on from the Huskers to our game of the week. We don't have that much time left, so we might only have to get into this one. But it's a big one. It's Penn State at Ohio State. Top 10 showdown.
In the Horseshoe, College game day going there. Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
So what do you say to the fact that Ohio State's going to beat them?
It's not happening.
Are you serious?
You are mentally ill, my friend, if you think Ohio State is going to win this game.
They are going to win.
Penn State is what I think the best team in the nation right now.
Really?
I think right now, neutral site, I bet they would beat Alabama.
You want to know what the stats say?
What do they say?
Ohio State is favored by 7.
A touchdown?
A touchdown. They are favored over Penn State what Penn State is favored over Virginia Tech or Stanford.
What?
Yes. So they think the stats think, the computers think that Ohio State is 14 points better.
This is why the computers don't play football. They don't know. They don't watch the games. They just get all these data points and stuff. They don't see on the field and on TV how good these teams look. Ohio State, again, since that loss to Oklahoma, absolutely flawless. Who have they played? Name me a decent team out of their last 5 games that they played. If you say Nebraska, that's the closest you could get to a decent team. Army, UNLV, Rutgers, Maryland, us.
No, there's no good team among them.
Yeah.
But you know what's the best team they've played in the last 5 weeks? Bye. They've played bye in the last 2 weeks. Actually, they played bye last week, which is the reason they're going to win.
Having an extra week is absolutely perfect for Ohio State to set up this upset.
Yes.
If you want to call it an upset,
it's an upset. But that's why I think they're going to pull it off. They have the bye week. This happened last year in the opposite reverse. Penn State had the bye week going into Ohio State. Ohio State played a tough Wisconsin team. I think Penn State took care of Michigan very handily, but it wasn't an easy game.
No, early on, definitely a very tight, close game.
This happened last year, and it was home for Penn State. It's home for Ohio State.
This has all the makings. I'll give you that.
But you're going to tell me why Saquon Barkley is just going to run all over.
I am going to tell you why Saquon Barkley is going to just run all over Ohio State. And again, this happened last week, and I think this is why Ohio State has the 7-point advantage. People forget about Penn State's defense. The lowest ranking they have in all of the major defensive categories is 17th in the nation. You want to tell me that Ohio State's going to be able to move the ball whatever they want on these guys?
Maybe not whatever they want, but enough.
They're 7th in pass defense, giving up just a little over 160 a game. They're number 9 in total defense. They're number 1 in scoring defense, giving up just 9.6 points a game. The only thing that they're not in the single digits is their rush defense. Again, 17, but they still only give up 115 a game. Ohio State is not going to be able to put up those kind of numbers that they have been in the past 5 games. Their numbers are inflated because they played, again, Army, UNLV, Rutgers, Maryland, and Nebraska.
We're just gonna fundamentally disagree on this. I think it'll.
Okay. Who's your Is JT Barrett your game breaker on why they're gonna win? 21 picks or 21 touchdowns and 1 interception. Who has he played? He's played Oklahoma, and in that game, Oklahoma absolutely came after him. That was in the horseshoe too. Nobody comes into the horseshoe and just wins, but he's been sacked 10 times on the season. At home, he's been sacked 6 times. A majority of those were from Oklahoma.
Sure.
Penn State's defense is too fast and too athletic for Ohio State to put up the kind of numbers that everybody's expecting from them.
I don't think they're going to put up that kind of numbers. I think they're going to win a game very similar to last year. They're going to win 24-17, 24-20, 27-24. They're going to win a game like that. It's going to be tight. Penn State has struggled. You saw the game against Iowa. They don't, against teams who have good defenses, which Ohio State does. They have a great defensive line. They have a very young but very talented secondary and linebacking core. And why I won't doubt you in the slightest for picking the Nittany Lions, I believe Ohio State with the added rest and the home field advantage, which is more important in college football than like the pros. I think the factors are all there for an upset victory. But I would not be shocked if Penn State won. But I think I would pick Ohio State.
Okay, you're telling me you think Ohio State's young secondary can handle Penn State's, again, not great, but just solid and consistent passing attack. They're going to be able to handle Deshaun Hamilton on the edge, Saquon Barkley. They can handle Mike Gesicki, their tight end. Dude's like I don't know. He's like a giraffe that can jump like a kangaroo. I don't know how to better to describe him. He's 6'6", but can out-jump anybody on the field. You put that ball anywhere near him, Mike Gesicki's getting it for the Nittany Lions.
Okay. All right. We'll see. We'll see if their weapons and Ohio State's defense will clash. I'll pick Ohio State. You pick Penn State. The winner, how about this? The winner gets to gloat and do the intro for next week's show.
Sounds good. It's going to be a good game. I don't know. Nate, our Heisman. Barkley, he's coming. You just watch out.
I love Saquon Barkley. He's my Heisman winner, but I think they're going to win. All right, let's quick hit one or two more games from next week that we think are going to be good. NC State versus Notre Dame. I think NC State's a good team, but I think Notre Dame's even better, and I think they're going to continue their quest to try and get into the playoffs.
Yeah, North Carolina State, if they're able to get their defensive end back, what's his name? It's driving me nuts here. Injured last week. He hopefully can come back. If he comes back, they have a much better chance. But right now, I think, again, Notre Dame's rush defense is just too much right now.
TCU at Iowa State. It'll be rough, but I think TCU is a really good team, and they're going to get it done.
Bradley Chubb.
I thought it was Chubb, but I was like, I'm not confusing him with the guy from Georgia, am I? Oklahoma State, West Virginia. At West Virginia, it'll be tough. We'll see if Mike Gundy can call a little bit of better game and beat the Mountaineers.
I don't know. At home, Mountaineers have already lost a couple tough ones. They had to come back against Texas Tech. And a little scare against Baylor. I thought they were looking ahead to this game.
I mean, I think the Pokes are better than West Virginia, but I don't know if that means they're going to win.
I don't know. I think I might take the Mountaineers in that one.
Fair enough.
Could be interesting out in Morgantown.
One game that you think will be interesting.
One game. Let's see. USC at Arizona State. Arizona State beat Washington at home. Then they go on the road and beat Utah. USC coming off a big loss in Sun Devil Stadium could get interesting.
I wouldn't doubt it. It'll be fun to watch. Is that a Pac-12 After Dark game?
That is a Pac-12 After Dark.
All right, we might have to watch that. I might be staying up late with you to watch that. All right. Yeah. That is it for the second string. We're so glad to be here. This has been another fun episode. We want to thank all of you listeners for coming out and just enjoying our time. We really appreciate it.
Nothing better than college football season. We're getting into the late October, early November.
I'm so excited.
One of the best parts of the season. Again, we get ready for a big weekend. Playoff implications to the max.
So many playoff implications. And I'm so excited. We have the I can't believe I just made this Penn State Ohio State game with intro bragging rights on the line. This is something that I have the exclusive power to do. I can't believe I'm wagering this right now.
We could easily switch chairs.
Oh man. Well, regardless, I just want to thank you guys again for listening. We really appreciate it. For Alex Fernando, I'm Nate Mielbach. You're listening to The Second String on KRNU 2 on Tuesday nights from 7 to 8. Thanks for listening, guys.
Go Big Red.